Welcome back to Story Hustler, Murder, Mayhem, PTSD. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Mike.
And this is a celebratory episode for a few reasons.
Give me some nuts.
Yeah, we've made it a long way. First of all, it's our 50th episode, and
50.
Who would have thought we'd ever get here? I didn't.
Is this our golden episode?
I don't know. I don't know if
50th
we've
episode?
made enough episodes to say it's our golden episode. Maybe one day.
But anyhow, it is our 50th episode, and
we've
who
improved.
would have thunk when we started this little project out on the
patio, lighting issues, sound issues, cicadas just overpowering
Usually the bugs
us.
were louder on the patio than we were.
So thank you for sticking with us.
I can't
we hope it's gotten better.
Yeah, we hope. Yeah, we think we've gotten better. It's nice to be back in the studio because we have not done an episode since we were sort of deep diving in Mike Turney, but that's another issue.
Yeah, we had a hiatus and now we're back and we have another piece of exciting news. Wow. So one of the stories that we've focused on a lot is obviously the polygamists and the fundamentalist Mormons. You came out of retirement last summer, not last summer, but 2022, and did some specials at Arizona's Family 3 and 5, and we actually just won Emmys for.
We received Emmys over the weekend, and we went on. It was a wonderful ceremony. It was a lot of fun.
It was,
and they were smart because they didn't let everybody go up and ramble on after the thing. But I wanted to say thank you to some people. You know, I mean, the ceremony was terrific.
Yeah.
But this is what we needed to thank some folks.
Yes.
For this, first of all, the Rocky Mountain Emmys.
Yes.
We are very grateful for the recognition because we think these stories were important.
Yes, and we also want to thank
AZ Family, sort of our family over the last 25 years, most of your life, and my former station. And they certainly, when we heard about this story, I said we should go up the mountain and cover this.
Very
and Sybil and Tyson and all my friends over there, and then
Adrian Campa,
one of the greatest photojournalists I've ever worked with, and an even better guy. And, to share this with him and you, Adrian, of course, did the shooting and all of the editing. And then you helped me with the production here in Phoenix, putting the package together, the two packages. And if anybody's interested in seeing the work that we received these for, I know it's on. Well, and I know it's on AZ Family's website. It's called.
But we'll link them down below too.
We'll have them here too. Sex, Teens, and God, the next generation. And and that's actually a pretty good description of what it was, because I've covered these guys for many years. You've lived through me with me covering these guys for many years, and really the story I have now come to sadly believe it never changes. Mm-mm. And after Warren was incarcerated and in prison for about the last 15-something years, really for the last 10 years, there's been sort of a hiatus.
Yep.
They haven't been doing the underage marriages, but that all changed. At the same time here, it's changed almost simultaneously when that big doc dropped. And I don't think they were connected.
No, but Netflix came out with a documentary or docuseries called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey in the summer of 2022. And that basically did a deep dive into the history of the fundamentalist
Latter-day Saints. They did a good job, too. They did a really good job.
Yeah, but it did kind of seem like a history, this was over now, kind of a blip in American history. But what we all didn't see coming was the revelation that Warren Jeffsoon put out after that Netflix series
and the timing was so weird.
It was so weird.
The Netflix thing drops in the summer, early June, and about the same week that we connected the dots and saw the serendipity of these time events later. But about that same week, Warren issues a revelation in his prison cell down in Texas, where he is clearly free to communicate with great freedom. Ease. Yes, great freedom, surprising freedom.
Yeah.
And he issues this revelation saying, gather up the children, we're going to start doing the marriages again. I mean, there's a lot of flowery language, but that was the bottom one. Anointed the son.
Helaman Jeff as the new prophet, not anointed by God, anointed by Warren.
Yeah, and that sort of deviates from scripture, but again,
we don't need to get into the details.
We deviate, but
a lot of things deviate from scripture in that community.
I think so. Yeah. So anyhow, Warren issues his revelation, and that was that set up a red flag for me anyhow.
Yes.
They're back in the Marion game, and it's not, it's in short order. Things are going to go wrong, and girls are going to go missing.
And inevitably they did.
Within a couple of weeks, we got a phone call from we're sort of we're still trying to do our thank yous, but this is the story. We need to thank some people. My old friend Ruth Stubbs, who is one of the first,
a pivotal player in this
and such a heroic figure. She stood up, and her case, we've talked about it before. Her husband got sent to prison or jail many years ago, and that case sort of set in motion.
It was one of the
Warren's
first actual cases.
Warren's prosecution wouldn't have happened without Ruth Stubbs. And that's the Ruth Stubbs story. Ruth's an old friend of mine. We was with her when that story broke, and she calls me shortly after the documentary breaks, and Warren issues his revelation and says, "We got another missing child."
Yeah, she has some friends, and their 17-year-old daughter is gone.
And it was under the it was under the what seemed to be obvious circumstance. Warren had said, "We're going to do the marriages, start collecting up the kids." The FLDS community was going, "Kumbaya, we're going to reunite the family." No, they're not. They're just going to continue to tear them apart and bring kids who are out back in.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And we did this. Now this gets sort of a roundabout. This is the story we did.
Yeah.
We went up the hill and met some wonderful people.
Dan and Maxine Jessup, and their daughter is the one that ran away. Or she ran away, but really, like, she's encouraged, pressured. There's just a lot of other outside factors that lead to the disappearance of
orchestrated disappearances of these children, whether they were overtly kidnapped, as one was, or spirited back by people in the FLDS.
Pressured back. But they have these safe houses all over America, and they've really kind of scattered. It's no longer just a Utah, Arizona issue.
Oh, for sure it's not.
North Dakota, Minnesota, like, it's become a nationwide issue.
Well,
it's always been a nationwide issue, but the nation hasn't really known.
And when it was just isolated along the Arizona Strip up in the creek, I mean, it was easy for everybody not to pay attention. But when they scattered down to Texas and Warren took his compound down there, suddenly the world got it, and then they busted the compound. But in the wake of that, apparently what the FLDS community, now active FLDS communities, they've scattered into smaller sort of compounds.
Mm-hmm. Less of a target in one place.
Yeah, and they've got security. And basically, as I felt with the the YFZ ranch down there, people think, they're going down to keep the outside world out. That's true. Mm-hmm. But they're also building these compounds to keep the girls in. They don't want runners. So, and they've kind of said they're now collecting up the girls, and it seems to, we've monitored some of the local coverage as they've spread out, and this guy that we talked about, Heber Jeffs, who kidnapped a girl basically at Warren's and got away with it. But he got busted in
North Dakota, North Dakota,
and then we're hearing reports that there are there are sightings and there are communities taking shape and all along sort of that Canadian border, Midwest, Minnesota, North Dakota. We're hearing reports, so
they've scattered.
Yeah, and in many ways that's because some troublemakers like me and Ruth made it too hot for them here in Arizona. They moved to Texas. That blew up in their face. That was the worst career move Warren ever made.
Yeah.
But
which is kind of the theme of this story, is if you put pressure on them, they're going to slow down. I don't know if they'll ever stop doing this to children. I just don't think they can.
It's in their DNA and their theology.
Yeah, they just are not going to ever stop. And I think that if you put pressure on them, which is what we hope to be doing by spreading awareness about this issue,
I think we slow down the marriages.
Yeah,
you slow down when they, this for that 10-year, 12-year period where Warren wasn't doing anything. It's because they were under the spotlight. Mm-hmm. Warren went on the run because we put the heat on him. Yeah. I've seen, and in many ways, it's interesting. So we did the story on Dan and Maxine and their daughter. with the help of a really good guy attorney up in Salt Lake, they were actually able to get this girl out of the FLDS community.
Get her back for a few months.
But you'll see with the destruction of families that Warren has done to people, kids are so alienated from their natural
parents. They're taught to hate their parents, to think that they're just the spawn of evil, they're the devil on earth. It's awful.
Parents are sent to repent from afar, and they go away and they leave their children in these caretakers' hands. And this is complete brainwashing.
They poison them.
They're told their parents are apostates, and this while they're being listening to Warren's sermons piped in these homes. It's a crazy scene, but Dan and Maxine were able to get their child back, and their story for briefly, but unfortunately the child became of age, and she has now gone back.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll smarten up at some point. But they're wonderful people trying to make their family work. Mm-hmm. And it was their story. And I think that in many ways their story, their history as a couple, really crystallizes what Warren has done to an entire generation and is now doing to another generation.
Continues to do.
And so this is why we thought this story was so important. It was, I think, a warning sign, our warning signal that this is the new MO. They're moving children around because they have compounds now all over the United States. So there will be trafficking. And if there
is trafficking, there already is trafficking.
And the only way that Warren keeps his power in this healing is if they have the control of the women and girls. That's the currency.
That's the currency in the
So
community.
They can't, I'm not surprised they're now back in business because that's what their business is. But the business means inevitably underage marriages, trafficking of children. And so when we did these stories, we were hoping this is our sort of our alarm call to everybody else. ABC.
2020 has some specials on it too, on the missing children specifically.
And the families, some of the missing children, the Dan and Maxine and Elizabeth Round, people that we've come to know. There was a group of people who, as children, suddenly disappeared or were kidnapped in this time frame, and they held a news conference, and we covered that. Those are this is what happens if you talk about it and you're getting some public exposure. I think you put the heat on these guys, and they have to back off of their natural inclinations to go after the kids.
Yeah.
And since ABC and since we did our search, I have not heard of any reports in the news of other children.
No.
I would argue that we probably already, with ABC and everybody else, raised
put pressure on,
and that news conference. Warren and they know, they always get in trouble. I mean, again, the history of these guys is, you want to go back, they're always doing this, and there's always been trouble for them. But we sort of compartmentalize that in history. All that happened then, and it's all just linked. It's the same story.
Over and over and over again. And not only is it the same story in this community, then you also have some interesting renegade prophets, as we've labeled them.
Oh, yeah.
Such as Sam Bateman, who we are going to continue to cover, but that keeps getting pushed down. So there's something in March. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah,
it continues to get pushed further and further down the line.
Because he, of course, wants to...
because he wants to represent himself, and that is going to be so very interesting to watch him sermonize in the courtroom. Well, just as Warren did.
And this, Dylan brings up a good point that in the future we have some sort of plans for this show now.
Yes.
And in many ways, it was that turning point of Keep Sweet and Warren's revelation that gave us much more of a... Because we were randomly going back and forth some of the silly true crime serial killers and from my past, but
now we feel like we're doing real news in real time.
Yeah, real news in real time, and we hope that again our resources don't stretch into where Minnesota or wherever this story is now, but we're monitoring what locals are doing. Yeah. We know of a couple of fairly significant, larger projects
that are coming soon.
But that's for them to talk about. And but so we're hoping that we can provide at least a touch point, as we've said many times, connecting the dots. Because when you got a kid missing here, missing here, you can not, and now they're scattered so much. If you don't understand that it really is part of a larger pattern of a story that has been going on forever. you miss it. And I know the people who are still inside, the women, many of them are just terrified, and they're told to be afraid of the outside world, and it's a horrible situation. And if you suddenly find people like that in your community, I mean, recognize that most of the people you're seeing, at least the youngsters, are victims.
They're being stripped of their human rights, their autonomy to literally everything in their life.
Make any choice whatsoever in their life.
Whatsoever. And they're just completely isolated.
And they leave all those choices to a guy like Warren Jeffs. Oh, my God.
Well, those are broader issues.
Yes.
We don't need to get into all that.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we're in the future. We're gonna continue to monitor Sam Bateman, who people know seems to be the sort of ultimate pervy little prophet that decided to make himself. And if the allegations are true, this guy's going to go away for a real long time. The thing that I love, his case is going to go on in federal court here in Phoenix. And when I heard that Sam had decided to represent himself, it brought back wonder. They're such horrible trials, but they're such comic performances. When Warren represented himself in Texas, I will say to my dying day, weirdest trial I have ever covered.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously Warren didn't have the law on his side, nor does Sam. So they think they can go into court and sermonize and preach. That's gonna help. And so and Sam's much more flamboyant than Warren.
Oh, yeah.
So anyhow, we're looking forward to Sam Bateman. His trial, because I guess he's going to represent himself, it's going to be way until next year.
So we'll keep you posted.
But we're on that, and we still have some wonderful video we're going to share at some point of Sam and his family serenading me in a park.
Yes, and we also have some ideas for some long-term projects that we're starting on. And it's going to be the 20th anniversary of your documentary.
My first documentary.
Summer, so
we may have to update that.
Yeah, we might update that. We'll keep you posted, but
and we're going. Sam is not the only renegade prophet we're going to talk about.
No.
I mean,
this community has produced loads.
Yeah, and the renegades. Sam is just one in a long line, but I've been around long enough to know some really colorful characters.
Oh yeah,
John Singer up in northern Utah.
Alex
Joseph down in the mayor of Bigwater, Utah.
Orson
William Black, a guy, the first guy that got criminally charged in Arizona 30 years ago for polygamy, after
that got into trouble down in Mexico.
Went down to Mexico and murder, the cartels. So we got
there's quite a few.
Orson William, a guy named Arvin Shreve, the famous gardener, landscaper up near Ogden, and Tom Green. So there's a whole history of, you've got the bigger groups, the FLDS and the Kingstons there's a whole colorful history. And, and sort of in many ways sickening history for some of these guys, these renegades. And we're going to take a deeper dive into some of these cats. I've known most of them, so I covered them all. So
we're going to get into a long-term project, but again, we'll keep you posted. Just teasing some ideas out.
And one other thing, we got word yesterday that you were overseas in Newcastle pursuing a master's degree in media and public relations, and we just got indication yesterday that they accepted your thesis and you're a master.
It's looking good.
So anyhow, congratulations.
So
your master's degree in media and PR.
Yeah.
Will you now teach me something about the media?
I'm still figuring out what that means.
Okay. So anyhow, we have at least the paper that says what you're doing.
I have the certificate that I'm a master.
We'll see. Congratulations on that. Congratulations on the Emmys. Thank you to everybody that helped us, Adrian. We love you. And 3TV, Channel 5, and the family, our family.
Yeah.
And the Rocky Mountain Emmys.
Yes. Thank you. Again, it was an incredible night. So very honored to be a part of that project.
So we've rambled all over the world.
We always do in these episodes. But if you're still with us, like and subscribe.
50th,
I forgot to say that again.
50th episode, dude. That's something. Man, I thought you were going to fire me a long time ago.
Jury's still out. Anyway, this is Story Hustler, Murder, Mayhem, PTSD. I'm Dylan.
I'm Mike.
Good night, everyone.